We're live again on YouTube, but not on Twitch because Twitch doesn't like the title. The title that we have is Dr. Shabir Ally makes excuses for slavery, slavery in Islam. But Twitch is like, nope, you can't have that title. So I'm going to change the title on Twitch. Are we live on Twitch now as well? Nope. Go. There we go. Okay, good. We changed the title. Okay, so if you're seeing us on Twitch now, is because we went live on YouTube, but Twitch didn't like the title because Twitch is very sensitive about the titles that we use. And now we should be live on Twitch at the same time. How's the audio? How do you guys have me? Everything is good. Everything good. Let me see. Fatima is here. Anyway, so today we're gonna discuss this. This is very recent. So you see August 21st, 2020. And they're talking about slavery in Islam, which is so yay. I'm glad that more Muslims are talking about these things openly so we could review what they're saying, so that a lot of people accuse us of misrepresenting Islamic views. And we don't have to convince them that no, this is actually what people believe anymore, because instead of us telling you what they believe, we could just review popular people like this Dr. Shabir Ally. He's a popular Islamic commentator, and all the people who agree with them. Fatima, by the way, guys, if you're watching this later, make sure you're not just subscribed, but you also have the notification bell so you can see when we go live. So you see the people in the live chat right now. Let me actually see. People are saying the audio is good. Fatima is saying audio is good. Mark is saying live on Twitch sounds good. So guys, make sure you follow us on Twitch as well. Coco is here. See, there's it's not just me talking. There's an engagement with the live chat. So hit the notification bell so you could join the live chat. So it's just not a one-way me telling you guys. You could correct me. You could disagree with me, and all of that, right? And especially the people who are members here, like Fatima here. I'll try to make sure that I either respond to your comment or at least highlight your comment. Okay. Anyways, let's get into this. So slavery in Islam. Let's see what we have to say. Okay, let me know if you have audio when I start playing.
Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
My pleasure to be on.
In our last episode, we spoke about slavery in world religions. Now I want to focus on slavery in Islam. So, Dr. Shabir, can you tell me, what does the Quran say about slavery?
Yeah, it's important that we are starting there, Safiyyah, because as our viewers will know by now, the Muslims and non-Muslims will know that the Quran is the very basis of Islamic law. This, for Muslims, is the word of God. And so it's important for us to start there and see what it says. So from what we know of the Quran, very little is mentioned about slaves. Though, of course, when Muslims read that, even today, like your right-hand possession, Muslims find it troubling, because we don't have this kind of right-hand possession today, which is terrible.
So she's talking about a couple of verses in the Quran that refers to your right hand possessing certain people, like obvious possession of people. Right. Actually, there's one of the verses in the Quran. Guys, I don't remember which verse this is. I wanted to quickly check which verse this is in the Quran. But there's a Quranic, if you know which one it is, can somebody let me know in the live chat? But I remember there was a verse in the Quran that said that you're not allowed to have sex with married women. It's unlawful to you. God had made it unlawful to you to have sex with married women unless, so I'm like, what? Like, Quran lets you have sex with unmarried women? Yeah, it does. Unless you captured them in war for Allah, and your right hand possesses them in a war or something like that. Do you guys remember which surah and ayah that was? Okay. AJ is saying, I must admit I didn't expect American accent. Well, these are Americans, I think, right?
Terminology that is used in the Quran, and it means something like what you rightfully possess, but not only what, it's the persons that you rightfully possess, and this seems like out of place today. But nonetheless, we should understand the Quran in its historical context to see what was being spoken about, what was the situation in life, and how the Quran is dealing with that situation on the ground. So as we've established in the previous episode, the situation on the ground across the world's religions, across territories, was that slavery was a reality. So how was the Quran dealing with that? The Quran is...
Okay, so I have a lot of comments on this. So I usually don't take notes But at the end of this, I'm gonna go. I took notes for this one because I want to make sure I don't miss a lot because he's gonna mention a whole bunch of excuses for slavery in the Islam. So here's the thing, guys. The most important part is that they're not denying it. Okay, they're not denying, like a lot of people when we say Quran and Islam as a whole excuses slavery. You know, they know that that's undeniable, so they have moved to coming up with excuses for why that is, instead of like, you know, instead of obviously they haven't been denying that ever, but for average Muslims, for the that are not familiar with Islamic laws and Islamic teachings, it's becoming harder for them to deny this as well. So the whole process of them trying to come up with excuses is a good thing because they're exposing their community that that's a real thing in Islam, that yes, slavery is okay in Islam. So them trying to defend it, even if we don't step in and telling them why their excuses doesn't make sense, that, you know, this is mostly to a Muslim audience, right? A lot of Muslims were like, "What? Wait a minute! What? I didn't know this. I didn't know my Quran excuse like says slavery is okay." So just that exposure by itself, even though they're giving excuses for it, is really good. Oh, Coco found a verse. Okay, let me check it out.
Encouraging Muslims again and again to free the slaves. And this is what most of the mention about slavery in the Quran is about freeing the slaves. For example, in the 90th chapter of the Quran, they're asking
Wait, which one? Okay, Afro also found it. Thank you so much. Hold on. The Quran about freeing. Okay, so it's very interesting. They keep focusing on the freeing the slaves, right? Not the abolition of slavery as a whole. Like, hey, it's okay to. This is so stupid. They like this. Okay, every time you talk about slavery to Muslim apologists, the trained ones, they know what to say. Like, look, Muhammad said it's good to free slaves. Free slaving is good. It's a good deed. Muhammad encouraged freeing slaves. To me, you know what that sounds like? To me, that sounds like, and again, guys, I'm going to say these words, and I know YouTube doesn't like me saying it. So please share these videos because this is going to really nuke the algorithm. The algorithm is like, why, Armin, you've been a nutty boy. You're talking about things that you're not supposed to talk about. And this doesn't get anywhere. Okay, so I'm going to say it anyways. So please share this video so to outdo what the algorithm is like doing to us. Okay. So imagine if Islam said, like, you know, if you're raping like 20 women a month, it's a good thing to take that from raping 20 women a month to 10 women a month. Every time you don't rape a woman, if you reduce the number of rape you do, that's a good deed in Islam, right? That's what it sounds like to me when they say, like, oh, free. Yeah, you have slaves. Let's say you have 50 slaves. It's a good deed if you free some of them. Like, you have 50 slaves. You're a good Muslim if you free 10 of your 50 slaves. Oh my God, what a great Muslim. Okay. Wow, God is giving you like brownie points for freeing some of your slaves. That sounds like to me like, yeah, I was planning on raping 50 women, but I raped 40 instead. Like, wow, you didn't rape 10 extra women. Congratulations. What a pious Muslim you are. Like, oh my God. That's what it sounds like to me.
Freeing the slaves. For example, in the 90th chapter of the Quran, they're asking you about the ascent. Like, what's going to cause you to ascent? Everybody wants to go to heaven, right? Mm-hmm. So what's going to cause this ascent? It's fakku raqaba. That's the first thing that's mentioned, is freeing the slaves.
Yeah, freeing the slaves. So exactly what I said. Like, the way you could go to heaven is reducing the rape you do per month. That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. And the Quran...
Fatima is saying, if he was so wise, he just abolished the whole slaves. Not wise, if he was just a decent human being.
gives us ways of atoning for our sins. And for sins, one after another, the Quran says, free a slave. So by freeing a slave, you would be atoning for your sins. And we all make mistakes. We all want the forgiveness of God. The Quran institutes charity as one of what Muslims would regard as the 5 pillars of Islam, giving charity. It is often called zakat by Muslims. And the 9th chapter of the Quran, the 60th verse, itemizes the various ways in which this zakat or charity can be spent. And one of the ways is for freeing a slave.
All right, yeah, okay. So guys, next time you want to do charity, okay, instead of doing charity, reduce the number of people that we were planning to rape. And like, oh yeah, the one form of charity is like, guy, there is no acceptable moral position other than not having slaves to begin with. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing charity by freeing my slaves. Why the fuck do you have slaves? Like, you're not a good person that you're freeing some of. That's not charity. You shouldn't have slaves. Like, oh yeah, form of charity. I was gonna murder 5 kids this month, but I've murdered 4 instead. That's my form of charity. What the? Shut the fuck up! You shouldn't have slaves.
Which means that you might buy a slave off of a master and then set the slave free as an act of goodwill and of charity. So
it seems like the Quran is recognizing that there's something happening here, like there's some sort of oppression that is taking place, and the Quran is trying to...
Yeah, some form of oppression by Muhammad himself. Muhammad himself had slaves. Okay, so you're acknowledging that slavery is oppression of people, and he's like trying to reduce it. But why? Okay, well, Muhammad have... Okay, let me continue.
Alleviate it in some way.
Yes.
Not abolishing it, but alleviating
it, yes. And I'm not aware that the Quran in any verse...
We got a super... Guy, we have to end with a super chat from Robert, son of Adam. What is this? Still has real... Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this country's name. I know somebody told me last time how to pronounce it. But that country you see on the screen still has real slave. So does Yemen. Who cares about paying charity when there are so much suffering? Well, I think you should care about charity. I think there are ways to address this, right? But thank you for the super chat, Robert, son of Adam. Yeah, it's not just there. China has forced labor in their prison system, so that's slavery. Yeah, not Yemen. Sorry, I mean Libya has slavery right now. There's a lot of slavery exists in a lot of places.
Says that slaves have to obey their human masters.
Hold on, I want to make sure I know how to pronounce this country's name. I don't like that I don't know how to pronounce this country's name. Oh, it's not giving me an option. Fine. I'll check it later.
All humans are required to obey God. And whereas we have seen in some other scriptures that there is an exhortation to the slave, obey your master, as if there is, as if this relationship is recognized by God as a valid way of, like, there's a kind of a hierarchy, God on top, the human masters, and then the human slaves below. But from the Quranic point of view, all of us are servants of...
Oh, that's another excuse. Like, okay, so yeah, there's slavery, but from a Quranic perspective, we're all slaves. It's all slave. We're all slaves to God. We're all slaves. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck. So yeah, another thing. I'm just gonna come up with an analogy on the fly. Like, okay, so basically he's saying, okay, yeah, I'm a slave master, you're my slave, but it's okay because technically I am a slave as well. I'm a slave to Allah. So it's potatoes. I know I'm forced. You know, that's not what we're talking about. The slavery we're talking about is forced labor. It's forced slavery and also forced sex slaves. Forced is rape by the people that you think you own. Okay, so you can't excuse that by saying, well, technically, we're also slaves to Allah. Well, that's not what we're talking about. Just because you name slavery something else slavery, you're playing a semantic. Oh, well, that's also slavery. I don't care that you consider that slavery. The slavery that we're talking about is fucking morally indefensible, and you should be ashamed of even trying. Like, look at this trick. We're talking about forced labor and raping people because you captured them in war, and you just named something else slavery that none of us sane people recognize as slavery, and you're saying, well, technically because that's also slavery, and technically because we're all slaves, all of this should be excused. Is that your line of reasoning? This guy's a doctor, guys. This is why every time some of these Muslims come and say like, oh, who are you to talk about these things? We are like educated, we're like, this is a scholar, I've read so many books and I published so many books. This guy, this is their scholars. Their scholars are saying, because we call that slavery, and this is also slavery, well, we're all slaves, so it's fine. It's potatoes. This is what they consider an intellectual. Like, this is the base. Like, I'm hoping people in the live chat recognize how morally indefensible slavery is. You're all smarter than, if you're all more intelligent than this fucking moron over here, right? So don't let the Muslims come in like, well, you guys don't have a scholarship. You guys are more sane than their scholars, okay?
God, and in this
I
way,
believe we're all equal in the sight of
God.
Oh yeah. I just own you, and I get to force you to have sex with me. But hey, God says in His book that we're all equal. So hey, it's at least that should give you some comfort, right? Well, think about that while I rape you without your consent.
A person who is a slave, this is recognized in other religions as well. The person who is a slave legally in this world, well, now illegal, but when it was legal, even then, the slave could be closer to God spiritually than his or her master.
Oh, great! I'm sure that's a great comfort. Like, oh yeah, I'm being raped and I'm being forced to do things against my will, but hey, I'm closer to God at least. That's great. Yay! Hey, that's good. I like it. Yeah.
Does the Quran say something like this?
Well, this is recognized widely in the Quran,
Where?
not specifically necessarily with reference to slaves in particular, but the Quran says, "Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum."
Oh, we got a new member, Jennifer. Thank you so much. We have a new member. I appreciate that. Wow, very nice, kind.
Most honorable among you, all human beings, are those who are more aware of their duty to God.
Okay, so did you see what he just said? He said, well, slaves might be closer to their God than their master. And the lady over there, she said, where does that say in the Quran? And no, nowhere does that say in the Quran. But he said, like, well, we could get that kind of from the Quran, because the Quran says that people who are aware of their duties, they're like close. They are, people who are aware of their duty to God, they're closer to God, or some crap like that. So he's actually making it worse, because by saying that, isn't he kind of suggesting, like, as a slave, you have to understand your position, and what you're doing is doing your duty to the God? Like, he's like actually like saying, like, you have to understand. you just have to do your duty, man. Like, just, this is your duty. Doing your duty to your slave master is kind of like you're doing your duty to God.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that could be even a slave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be a slave. Oh, God damn it. Jesus Christ. Like, you're not making it any better. Shut the fuck up.
So why do you think that the Quran didn't take that next step and get rid of slavery?
Thank you, lady. Thank you for asking the most obvious question that you should be asking. Yes, why not just give, like, hey, slavery, bad. Do not own people. Why did the Quran not say that anywhere at all? In fact, it has instructions on how to do slavery properly. Thank you for asking the obvious question.
It may be due to the circumstances at the time. There's an interesting verse in the Quran, in the 24th chapter, that may shed some light on this. It says that if a slave were to seek to have a contract with you for his or her release, then you should write that contract.
It's funny how in places where the word slave is not convenient for them, they use slavery, but where the word slave is when the word slave servant is more convenient for them, slave is more convenient for them, to use slave to, like, because now they're going to talk about a contractual agreement, somebody who will submit themselves in servitude to somebody else in replacement of their to pay back their debt. And this is a favorite example to go back to. Be like, look, this is something that some people voluntarily submit themselves into, which is absolute horseshit, because that's not slavery, that's employment. They're like, hey, I have some debt. Can I work for you instead? That's a mutual agreement between two people. That's a contract. That's not slavery. Okay, like, hey, look, this is why they didn't get rid of slavery. Are you fucking serious? What about all the verses in the Quran and all the Hadith that tells you that you could capture people as slaves in war? That's not a contract. That's actual slavery. This is a voluntarily agreement. This is not what we're talking about, you fucking moron.
For him, if you see any good in him. Now, the question is, what does the Quran say if you see any good in him? It may be that somebody may frivolously say, okay, let's get down and write a contract.
Yeah, let's get down and write a contract. Do you think that is called slavery? If somebody comes and writes a contract with you, like, hey, let's write an agreement, that is not slavery. They're coming, the person is agreeing to it. By definition, that's not slavery. Slavery is forced labor. It's against your fucking will.
But he's not capable of getting out of his situation of slavery. We know in modern times of what is called a welfare trap, where a person may be so accustomed to a certain way of life and the way of earning income or receiving income that one does not one does not have the wherewithal to get out of this situation. Of course,
this is another trick we do. Like, okay, we had slavery back then, but today we also have slavery. I mean, everybody needs to work to be able to make money, and we're stuck in the situation that we all have to work. So we're technically the same situation. Shut the fuck up! Nobody captures us in war and comes and rapes us right now. I mean, not here at least. That is what we're talking about. The slavery that we're talking about is Muhammad and going and killing a whole bunch of Jews and all the men and taking the women and children and selling them to raise money to buy weapons. That's what we're talking about. Is that at all similar to people having to work right now to be able to pay rent and eat? Is that at all remotely close to what we're talking about? They're like, oh, well, we call that slavery, but technically today we all have to work as well. Is it even remotely close? You want to call it slavery? Fucking call it slavery. At least address the verses in the Quran that tells you that when you go in war and you capture women, then you're allowed to rape them as your sex slaves. Address that. Can you, whatever, if you want to call it all of this that we're involved in slavery, fine. Call it all slavery, say they're all morally the same. What about that? What about the specific action that the Quran lets you do that? What about that? Can you address how morally undefensible that is? Call that something. Call it slavery on steroids. Let's call it that, okay?
We should do everything as a society to help people out of that situation. But at that time, maybe slavery was such a reality that there are some people who just simply will not get out of this.
You know what else was? Okay, like, well, at that time, this was part of the norm and everything was like this. It was impossible for people to get out of it, right? A lot of people also say that the economy, like he's not saying right now, but the economy ran on slavery. It was unreasonable for people to remove slavery from the economy. You know what else was part of the norm? What else was part of the reality? And it was difficult for people even to imagine getting out of at that time. You know what else was there? Idol worshipping in Mecca, according to Islamic sources itself, was a major source of income. The Qurayshi tribe's entire source of income was dependent of all these idol worship, all these statues, and people going out of their way, going on detour to come to Mecca to worship these idols in Kaaba. And while they're doing it, they're making Kaaba a center of trade for Qurayshi money to be able to capitalize on all this trade. Like, removing that from the equation was a major blow to the economy of Mecca at that time. And yet Muhammad had no issue with calling that immoral, calling that shirk, saying that there's only one Allah and everybody should, like, we should completely destroy all of these idols, remove it from, it's not acceptable, even though people were like, this is going to be devastating to Mecca, devastating to our way of income, devastating to our way of life. This is the norm. This is the norm. This is the way our ancestors did this. Muhammad had no issues with like, oh, I don't care that this is the norm. I don't care that this is the way of life. I don't care that your economy depends on this. Fuck all this shit. You only pray to one God and one God only. I do not accept any of these excuses. So he had no problem with throwing away the norm over there. For a God that could make anything happen, it seems like it's challenging for him to go against the norm of slavery. Really, is that too much to ask for you to also maybe tell people like, hey, I demolished one way of life. Hey, let's demolish the other evil. You know how much more defendable Islam would have been if it came as a religion that went against slavery? Well, no, apparently that's too much to ask.
But there was a way out. So if some slave person had the ability, as people now work in a second job,
and another thing, I have to say this, another thing. Muhammad had slaves. Muhammad had slaves. The whole argument like, oh my God, it's too much to ask from the creator of the whole fucking universe to be like, hey, can you say something about slavery? It's too soon. Oh, this is too normal. I don't know. As people are used to it, this is the way of life. Apparently it's too much to ask for God to like, make a revolutionary statement against that. Okay, fine. Well, at least can you have your prophet not have slaves himself? If it's too much to ask other people to not have slaves, if it's too much to ask for Muhammad to get other people to let go of all of their slaves, how about this? How about a smaller ask? How about the person that is supposed to be the role model for all men at all times? How about at least he not having slaves? Not only he did not have slaves, not only did he not go and say like, I'm not going to have slaves, I'm not going to tell you guys to not have slaves, but I'm not going to have slaves. He went beyond that. He went after other people's slaves. They're like, oh, that slave you have there is too sexy. I mean, okay, she's too cute. Like for you, like I'm the give me. That's too hot. I'm attracted to you. I'm attracted to your slave. I'm the prophet. Give me your slave. Give me your slave right now. There's hadith on that. He did that multiple times. Slaves that were too attractive, and he couldn't let other Muslims have it. The role model of all mankind in the whole universe forever and ever and ever. Can we not have that? Like, is that too much to ask for him not at least not do that? You know how easier it would be for Muslims, like, hey, he didn't abolish slavery, but he didn't have any slaves, and we're not supposed to follow other Muslims around him. We're supposed to follow Muhammad, and Muhammad didn't have any slaves. So he didn't say anything about slavery, but his actions spoke louder than his words. You know how much harder would it be for somebody like me to attack Islam if Muhammad himself didn't have any slaves? But he had slaves, and he fucked his slaves. He raped his slaves. Actually, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you an example, one of my favorite examples of how not only he raped his slaves, I'm going to show you that how it was even worse. It was even worse than just rape. How could it get worse than him raping his slaves? It gets worse.
Could, in addition to serving their master, they could do work on the side, earn some income, and based on that income, they could actually buy themselves off the master to set themselves free.
That's not what we're talking about. That's a contract. That's an agreement. That's employment. That's not slavery.
Think that happened?
This happened, and this is what the Quran is speaking about now. If the slave wants to enter into a contract with the master for this sort of freedom, it's called a mukataba in Arabic. They write an agreement, and the slave is going to pay so much to the master to free himself. So then the Quran says, if you see any good in them, then you should write this contract for them. And it is mentioned that the second caliph of Islam, Omar, he made it mandatory. He said, even though the Quran put it as a kind of condition, if you see any good in him, that condition doesn't really apply. In his present context, he saw that it's necessary to write the contract, just for the fact that the slave is requesting that.
Abu Bakr freed some of Muhammad's slaves after his death. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bilal, the guy that had a very good singing voice for the azan, the call to prayer. he wasn't freed by Muhammad. He was freed by Abu Bakr. Am I correct about that? Am I correct about that? Because if that's true, that means Muhammad, who said like, "Hey, freeing slave is good," he didn't see the. If guys, am I correct? Ex-Muslims in the live chat, am I correct about that? Bilal was not freed by Muhammad. He was freed after Muhammad's death by Abu Bakr. I'm going to comment on that. If that's true, let me know.
Yes. And so this is one way in which the slave would have become free. And we know in Islamic history that there were circumstances in which slaves rose to great positions of power and prominence.
The Mamluks, for example.
In the Mamluks, for example, yes. They were Circassian persons who were...
No, I'm not talking if it was Tolkien guy. I'm talking Bilal, given that Bilal was like supposed to be... Okay, after saying I'm right. Okay, so Bilal is used as an example as one of the greatest Muslims. He had such a great voice. He was like singing that zone. He's going to go to heaven. In school, they told us, in school in Iran, they told us he's such a great Muslim that one of his reward in heaven is that his skin is going to turn white, go from black to white. Apparently, that's a reward in his, to my Islamic teachers, at least. Okay, so if Muhammad didn't say free Bilal, so he was so great. He was such a good Muslim, but Muhammad didn't once consider freeing him. Well, Muhammad, who says like, "Hey, it's a good idea to free slaves," one of the best of all Muslims, remained a slave during the entire lifetime, during Muhammad's entire lifetime. Abu Bakr had to free him after Muhammad died. One of the people that Muslims go around like, "Oh my God, Bilal was such a great guy. He was the best of Muslims. He was so good. He's gonna go to heaven. His azan singing is perfect." Muhammad never freed him. Muhammad never freed him. Never like, "Hey, you're awesome. Let me free you." Nope. He never crossed his mind. He just remained a slave during his life. So even the stories that they have, like, "Oh, look, Abu Bakr is so great. He freed." This is the narrative that came like, "Look, Abu Bakr freed Bilal. Isn't that great? He freed Bilal. That's so great. Look at how great our Khalifas are." Like when I heard the story, like, wait a minute, what? Abu Bakr freed Bilal? So you're telling me Muhammad never freed him? What the, like that's even their excuses actually makes it a bit worse.
Often castrated and sold into slavery. They were bought into Muslim lands, and then in Muslim lands, they rose to positions of power until they actually became the ruling class. And so Mamluk actually literally means one who is possessed, one who is owned. And the Mamluks then, and the Mamluk Empire, which came to bear that name, is owed to this history.
Another excuse. They're like, "Hey, guess what? Some of our slaves achieved a lot later in life when they were freed." Isn't that great? Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Again, it's like, "Hey, I know I raped 50 women, but look, 20 of them are now. Look at the careers of 20 of the women I raped. Look at them. Aren't you proud of them? Look, they have careers now. They're strong, independent women. Look, it can't be that bad. I know I raped them, but look at them. They're so strong. They're independent. They have their own lives. And now that I'm not raping them anymore, they have such accomplished careers." Like, oh yeah, like, okay, what does that got to do? Like, you shut the fuck up. You rape, like this is their excuse. Like, yeah, we have slaves, but some of their slaves after they were freed, managed to accomplish so much. Shut the fuck up. What does that got to do with that? Is that an excuse for the fact that you have slaves?
For the fact that those who now became the rulers were once slaves.
I believe it wasn't only in that period, but I believe in the Abbasid period and the Ottoman period, we see that trend as well.
Wait, are you guys going to use the Ottoman period? Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Ottomans chop off the balls and penises of their slaves? Like a lot of, is that correct? Somebody tell me if I'm correct, because a lot of people say like, well, slavery in Islamic countries was not as bad as North Atlantic slave trade. So for them to make an excuse for how bad their slavery, like how mild their slavery was, they go and find some of the worst examples of how brutal slaves were treated. to make him like, well, it wasn't as bad as that. I don't give a care. I don't care how it wasn't bad as the North Atlantic slave trade. Slavery is bad. Slavery is just horrible. It's an indefensible position, right? You know what you could do, because the people who are involved in North Atlantic slave trade, they could go, well, like, well, the North American slave trade was not as bad as the South Americans, because as horrible the conditions of slaves were in North America, the conditions of slaves in South America was actually way worse than the slaves in North America. So based on this comparison that they often make, the people that were involved in North American slave trade, they could also make the, because they could make the same excuse. Oh, what happened to my screen? Okay, we're back. Okay, so that's a stupid excuse. But here's the thing. Yes, North American slave trade was in general a bad thing. But one thing that wasn't as bad is that they didn't chop off the balls and dicks of their slaves like the Ottomans. Right, guys? Am I correct? The Ottomans chopped the balls and penises. What the hell are you talking about? Oh my God, we have some vegans here. Armin is in favor of slavery so long as the slaves are a member of his species. Jesus Christ, this conversation is going in all directions in the live chat, eh?
So it seems like slaves didn't necessarily have the lowest position on the rung. No, they had power.
They had power and influence. In fact, some of the early teachers and transmitters of Islamic tradition were, in fact, once slaves. But they had either as slaves, they learned the tradition from their masters, and then they later on became teachers, or later on they were freed, and they still kept their allegiances to their previous
I have some sex slaves and I raped them in my harem, but eventually I liked her so much that I gave her some influence, and now she's like kind of like a semi-queen now. So this excuses the fact that I raped her against her will. That's basically the argument that they're making.
Masters, but they nonetheless became very important and influential teachers. I think if there's any last thing we need to say, we need to acknowledge that we have painted a kind of a rosy picture, and it's not all of that rosy. There have been difficulties, and slavery
There's been difficulties. Like, oh yeah, it's the, I'm acknowledging the fact that all the slaves that we raped and beaten and punished, I'm giving you some some examples of some of them coming to the position of power, but some of them were harmed. The vast majority of them would have preferred not to be slaves. There's some difficulties. We chopped off the balls of some of them. Some minor difficulties. We punished some of them. We tortured some of them who weren't obeying their masters. Minor, I know I'm trying to distract you with the ones that actually eventually managed to come to a position of power, but there were some minor difficulties. We raped a whole bunch of them. We raped a lot of them. Minor difficulties. So it's just some difficulties with slavery. It's evil. It's kind of evil, even though most of it, not most of it, there's a small minority of it I'm using as an example to trying to excuse all of this. But there was some evil. There was some raping going around, including our very own prophet. He did some raping here and there. Some difficulties.
Is an evil that we recognize in modern times. Ancient societies grapple with it in their own way. We have to grapple with it in our own way, in our own time. This calls for a lot of reinterpretation of the Islamic tradition, and we must be brave enough to do that.
So, Dr. Shabir,
reinterpretation. Here's another idea. Fuck Islam. How about that? How about not interpretation? You don't need interpretation. You can't reinterpret garbage, okay? You cannot reform cancer, okay? How about here's an interpretation for you. Fuck Islam. Throw the whole thing in the garbage. How about that?
What are some of the rules involved with, I understand that Islam places some limitations on having slaves. So can you tell me a little bit about what those limitations were?
Woo, we got a €5 super chat. Thank you so much, Darko. Don't be a slave. Hit that join button. It'll set you free. Thank you. Yes, guys, hit the join button. Well, no, don't hit the join button if you're suffering. Guys, do not support this channel financially. Do not become a patron. Do not join if you are suffering financially. If you want to support us financially, make sure you only do it if you're secure financially 100%. There are other ways that you could support this channel. You could hit the share button. You could hit the like button. You could leave a comment after the live stream is over. Those are better ways of supporting us. Do not support us financially if you're struggling. Please do not. Okay. But thank you so much for the super chat, Darko. Very kind, very generous.
Yeah, in the first place, you could not go raid a community and steal their people and make them slaves. In fact,
well, unlike my prophet.
It is
mentioned. Wait, so that's a modern interpretation, right? Like, wait.
Yeah, in the first place, you could not go raid a community and steal their people and make them slaves.
What are you talking about? That's literally what Muhammad did in Hadith. That's literally what your prophet did.
In fact, it is mentioned that the Prophet, peace be upon him, specifically said that he will be an opponent of those people on the Day of Judgment who go raid a community and steal their people.
Bullshit. He did that himself. He did that himself. He killed 400 to 900 Jews in one day, and he sold the women and children to slavery of all the Jews from that tribe to raise money for weapons and horses. Bull fucking shit. Where does he get? What the fuck are you talking about?
People to sell them into slavery. So what remained for Muslims was the one avenue of acquiring slaves through war. And again, one.
Oh yeah, okay. It's like, okay, we can't do that, even though you literally did that. But there's other ways. So what remained for Muslim was the avenue. Okay, wow. Even this is a great admission. Okay, fine. Okay. First of all, your prophet committed genocide and took people as slaves, right? That's your official Islamic narrative. I don't care how much of it is true. What I care is what you consider canon. But even this mild admission is like, okay, so what was remained is Muslim was the only way we could get slave was for Muslim to here. So what remained for Muslim was the one avenue
of acquiring slaves through war.
Acquiring slaves through war. I'm so grateful that you guys are actually saying that outright to your, because if we say it, they're like, well, you guys are Islamophobes. You guys are anti-Islam. I don't believe you. This is what your own people are saying. Okay, do you believe this guy? This is made for a Muslim audience. So thank you for at least admitting that.
And again, one would not enter into war just because one wants to get some slaves. But if there is a just war, which is called as a
just war. For example, when Muhammad attacked the Jews, he was like, I think some of these people betrayed me. And like, wait, how do you know? Like, oh, God told me. Like, okay, do you have any evidence? Nope. I just came revealed to me. It was revealed to me that they want to betray me. Kill them all. Like, okay, wait, should we kill the people that were? Can you tell us which one of these Jewish people specifically were planning to betray you, so that we could just kill those people? Nope. All of them. Behead every single person, every single man that has pubic hair. That means they're old enough for them to be executed, even though some kids get their pubic hair by age 11. So they actually killed a whole bunch of boys as well, not just men. But yeah, kill them all. I have this feeling that they wanted to betray me. Are you sure that's not an excuse because you saw their women and their wealth and all the they invited Muhammad to stay over for a while, and you just noticed, oh my God, you guys have so much wealth. It was acknowledged that he noticed it, and he came there the day after, like, yeah, I think these people want to betray me. What do we do? Like, what do you guys think we should do? And one guy was like, I think we should kill all of them. And he said, like, that guy knows what's up. That guy, your ruling is exactly what Allah wants. Let's do that. Let's just kill them. Let's just commit genocide. I feel like genocide today. I'm just getting genocide vibes today. Let's go for it.
The last resort, after every diplomatic means fails, called by a legitimate authority to right a wrong, or to remove an oppressor, or to seek justice, then if as a result of that war, especially when you're being attacked and you're defending your community as Muslims were forced to do, then what was to be done with the captives of war? Today, the captives of war would be put in a prison and then eventually released or exchanged for prisoners. Well, Muslims had these options as well, except that they did not have a prison in the nascent Muslim community. For the first time, Omar bought a house. He was the second caliph of Islam, and he dedicated that house to be a prison for criminals. So seeing that there was no prison, the way of dealing with prisoners of war was to distribute them within the community to serve as household servants. And so this is what we are referring to when we talk about the slavery within that Islamic context. It's not like the plantation slavery that, if you watch.
No, it's not. It's not. We're just okay. It's not like plantation slavery. It's kind of like contract. Yeah, that's not slavery. These people, they're learning from the woke mob, right? They're like, oh, this is not racism. This is not the new definition of racism. So that makes us not racist, right? So they're like, okay, so they're going to redefine. These people are learning this whole redefinition of words thing. Like, oh, it was contract. It's not the same as like 12 years of slave and all that. Like, yeah, it was just an agreement. So we're just going to redefine slavery. Slavery means forced labor. It had nothing to do with writing contracts between people. Your own Quran and your own Hadith makes it very clear that people were taken against their will and raped against their will. Muhammad raped people against their will. And you're like, oh, it wasn't as bad as 12 years of slavery. Yeah, okay. We didn't do, it wasn't as bad. We didn't put people in ships and take them across oceans. We just chopped their balls and dicks sometimes. That's what we did. And we raped them, but not as bad as 12 years of slave. And yeah, we're just going to redefine the slavery to make it mean something else, because we know that defending slavery, the way that normal people define it, is indefensible. So we're just going to try to play this trick on you to make it seem like it means something else back then, even though the Quran and Hadith literally describe that it's exactly what we think it is.
A movie like 12 Years a Slave, you see the horror of slavery. Well, slavery is bad altogether, but in the Islamic context, it was not exactly the same.
Slavery. So basically, this is his argument. Slavery is always bad, except when it's Islamic. Slavery bad, but not within context of Islam. Every time you see slavery in Islam, we mean something else. We're talking about something else. Sure, buddy. Sure.
Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir, and we'll pick up on.
Let's see. Is this no? That's not the verse. This is Coco and some other people shared this. This is the verse I think I wanted. So there's a lot of Quranic verse like this, but I wanted to highlight this with you guys. This is Quran 4, Surah 4, Ayah 24. Sahih International this is not the best translation, but it's the most readable one. The rest of them sound like you're reading Shakespeare or something crap like that. So Sahih International says, and also prohibited to you are married women except. I remember when I was reading, by the way, this translation, when I was reading it in Persian, I remember being shocked just reading this except part. Okay, like, wait, married women are prohibited to you, obviously, except, what the fuck? Like, I was thinking, what could possibly come after except? Like, how in the world will God say, like, oh yeah, married women, there's some situations that you can have sex with them even though they're not your wives? Like, huh? Except those your right hand possesses. Talking about slaves, right? So basically, if you capture women as slaves, how much consent do you think is involved here? When a woman who's already married and now she's your slave and she has a husband, and God is making it as allowing you to have sex with them, do you think this woman is like, okay, sure, I'm a married woman, you captured me in war, I guess this is fine. This is okay. Everything is fine. I'm okay with this. What? Oh God, this is in the Quran. I don't even have to go to the Hadith, guys. I don't even have to go to the Hadith. Because this is the decree of Allah upon you, and lawful to you are blah 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 blah, a whole bunch of other things. Wait, let me actually see. And lawful to you are all others beyond these, provided that you seek them in marriage with gift from your property. Yeah, blah blah. I only cared about this part. Let me see actually what other translations. It's so demeaning as well when their God refers to slaves as what your right hand possesses. Like, yeah, I own you. I own you. I hold you in my right arm. Like, chill like. It doesn't, like, they try to make this look good, but the Quran makes it very difficult to make it, like, even the language that is used is like so difficult to make any of this look good. I think this is the guy. This is what the story that also there's a lot of hadith on Muhammad raping his slaves. There's a lot, and even this story it is explained in more details in a lot of places. But you guys know, I figure there's a lot of ex-Muslims in the live chat, right? So you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm right about if this is the woman. Okay, so the prophet offered blah blah blah. The prophet is boring. Yeah, okay, here's interesting. Okay, let me read the whole thing. The prophets, this sallallahu bullshit is here, offered the Fajr prayer near Khaybar when it was still dark, and then said, Allahu Akbar, Khaybar is destroyed. Okay, so this is after a war. And Muhammad is like, yay, we won, victory, we destroyed Khaybar. For whenever we approach a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning for those. Then evil will be the morning for those who have been warned. Then the inhabitants of Khabir came out running on the roads. The prophet had their warriors killed. Oh, the prophet had their warriors killed. Okay, and their offsprings and women taken as captives. Okay, so this means slaves. Basically, like, kill the men. What does this mean, that they were killing them even after they're running away? Jesus, this is a war crime. The prophet, so this is what they always do. They take the women and children as slaves and they kill the men. Okay, and one of these people was Safiyyah. Safiyyah was among the captives. She first came in the share of this dude, Dahya al-Kiya. So what does this mean? So they captured the women and children as slaves, and when it came to the sheriff, look, they're talking about women as if they're like their property. Like we one of the women that they captured was this guy's share, this Muslim's share, right? This guy, like, yeah, this is my slave. This is my share of the booty. This is my share of the war. This is like Safiyyah. But unfortunately for Daya al whatever this guy's name is, Safiyyah was too pretty. She was cute. She was too pretty. This is a Jewish girl, right? This is the Jewish woman, right? This is a Jewish woman. And Muhammad are like, oh my God, that slave of yours is too hot. But later on, she belonged to the prophet. There's specific stories about the prophet. I mean, there's a lot of stories about Safiyyah. And the prophet realizing, people came to the prophet like, oh my God, this woman is so hot. And the prophet like, yeah, okay, you need to leave the best of the slaves for the prophet. So she belonged to the prophet, guys. This is Hadith Bukhari, guys. Hadith Bukhari is the highest source, Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari are the highest authority sources of Hadith for Sunni Muslims, okay? So she belonged to the prophet. So it became Prophet Muhammad's property. The prophet made her man. Okay, so he freed her after he raped her. Is that what this means? Yes. Okay. So this is not the full story. Let me tell you. I don't know where I can find the full story, but I remember the full story. Again, this is also part of Islamic canon. Okay. This woman, Muhammad killed his father, his brother, I think. I know he killed Safiyyah's father and his husband that day. And also, I think his brother. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Am I right or wrong about this? He killed all three or just two? He killed his father, his brother, and was it this lady, or is that a different slave? I think Muhammad killed his father, his brother, and his husband. And he had sex with Safiyyah. And the reason why I'm not saying rape yet, but it is rape. Muhammad had Muhammad had sex with Safiyyah on the very day that he killed his father, his brother, and her husband. What are the chances of Safiyyah being like, yeah, okay, have sex with me? Like, what are the chances of the Safiyyah being like, okay, like, this is a consensual relationship right now? Yeah, people are confirming that I'm right. It was her. Again, I haven't read these stories for a long time, so I just remember that the woman that Muhammad did this to was either Safiyyah, something with SNF. So I was assuming it was her. So he didn't just have sex with her, he raped her. On the very day that he killed her entire family. He wasn't like, even you could be like, hey, Muslims could have, if the story was different, like, oh, look, slavery wasn't that bad. Like when Muhammad captured this woman as sex slave and married her, they say married her, because as if like there's any form of consent involved in marrying her. He didn't even let her like recover from the fact that she just lost her entire family, her own husband, her own brother, and her own father. Nope, too hot. She's too hot to wait. Having sex with her on the very day. Was it the same day, right? Oh, Suha is not. Suha is saying yes. He killed her family and her tribe and raped her on the same night. Yes, I'm right. On the same night, Muhammad is a fucking animal. Don't say that. That's insulting to animals. There's nothing wrong with being an animal. Muhammad is far worse. Suraya is saying Quran is clearly fucked up. The interpretation needs 10 people to explain how it is not good. Basically, to fool people. Yeah. For every verse, if the Quran is this big, right? You need an entire library of gymnastic arguments to make this fucking shit seem appealing and not morally indefensible. And even then, you will fail. Better to just let the whole thing go. Anyways, let me focus on the live chat right now. Guys, so I'm going to have subscribe to this channel. I hit the notification bell because I'm going to have, at this time, I'm going to try to do more Islam-related live streams. And then the other, so this is my night in the US, this is morning. But in my morning, nighttime in the US, I'm going to try to do more woke-related stuff. Sometimes I'm not going to be able to do the live streams exactly, because I'm doing a live stream at Secular Jihadist podcast. By the way, check out Secular Jihadist, everybody. Or if I'm invited to a debate somewhere. So if you see like, oh, why there's no live stream today, it's probably that. And sometimes the power goes out here. If there is a scheduled live stream and I'm not showing up, it's because the power just went out. If we hit 200 patrons, link in the description, or 200 YouTube members, I'm going to buy a power generator and a second internet provider so that all these power outages doesn't stop me from doing our live stream. And again, thank you for everybody who's supporting us, either by being a patron or joining the YouTube as a member. Thank you guys for making all of this possible. Make sure you hit the subscribe and notification bell. Anyways, let's focus on what you guys think. Soha, as always, reminding everybody to like and subscribe. And also, guys, follow us on Twitch. If you like Twitch, follow us over there. Let me see. Oh, one other point that I had on my notes that I wanted to mention. Like, I brought up almost all my points organically without referring to my notes. I brought most of them, right? But let me see what I wrote here. There was something that I didn't say that I wanted to make sure. This is what I said. I said, why is the woke mob not going after this? By this, I mean Islam. They are talking about how people today have to beg for forgiveness for their ancestors owning slaves, and yet we have people who are promoting slavery today. So where's the woke mob? The woke mob, like, where's the standards? It seems like am I back? Okay. The video keeps going out. Let me do this again. In year 2020, when statues of yesterday's slave owners are being toppled, today's legitimizations of slavery is being tolerated. All right, so that's the only part of my notes that I think I didn't mention during the live stream. Let me see what you guys are saying. Ronald, who is a member, you see that symbol over here? next to his name, that means he's a member. That means supporting us. He's joined as a member and he's supporting us. Thank you so much, Ronald. That's very kind. Ronald saying rape is prohibited in Islamic law, right? No, it's not. Ronald continues, but a woman's vote counts half as from a man, so to have a rapist convicted, there needs to be at least 2 women as well. No, Ronald. There's the concept of consent is never, the woman's consent has never been a requirement in what you call marriage. It has never, nowhere in Islam, nowhere in a single hadith or in the Quran, it requires consent from the woman for you to have sex with them. Rape has not been outlawed in Islam. Zina has been outlawed, and modern Muslims try to say like, well, zina, which is like sexual deviancy, they're trying to say, well, that also includes rape, but it doesn't. Nowhere in the Quran or the Hadith it mentions that you require consent. The consent that you do require is from the father of woman, unless she's a sex slave. Then you don't even need that. Rape is allowed in Islam. Hold on, let's see. Most epic something is saying, Armin, you are doing a great job, my friend. Most respect. Thank you so much. Why are you using 3s instead of E's? It's hard to read. Somebody's telling me to fuck off. Well, this is my channel. I'm not gonna fuck off. You fuck off. I'm not going anywhere. Who else is here? Hindu historian who gave us a super chat before. Thank you so much, Hindu historian. He's saying because he or she is saying because wokeness is about internet points, not making the world a better place. Quite accurate. It's about virtue signaling, to be more accurate, actually. AJ is saying because the woke mob also thinks any criticism of Islam is Islamophobic. Well, hashtag not all, but that's fair. It's a fair point for most of them. Ronald is saying, wow, I don't know to what, but to something. Shubham is here. Shubham saying the hadiths clearly say that Muhammad said that a woman's silence means consent. No, it doesn't. It doesn't even require consent. So he could easily cut off a woman's tongue to get her. No, it doesn't. Where does it even require consent? It doesn't require consent. In fact, the hadith even says that if you don't have sex with your husband when he's horny, the angels will be cursing you till morning. The angels will come down. If you don't let your husband have sex with you, it even makes it clear that you're in the wrong, that you're cursed, you're a cursed woman. Thousands of angels will come down upon you from heaven and curse you from night till morning if you don't, if you say no to your husband when he wants to fuck you. We have actually had this that says the exact opposite. Do you guys know that hadith, right? If your father wants the whole marriage, the marriage is like a sales contract between the father and the husband, the to be husband. The consent of the woman never takes place in any of this, unless she's like a big businesswoman, pre-Islamic, like Khadija. Okay, all the things that made Khadija have any say over her life was taken away by Muhammad after. So the person, like Muslims keep pointing out to Khadija, like, whoa, look, Khadija was independent. Khadija had to say over what she does and who she marries. Yeah, that was pre-Islam. That was pre-Muhammad making his Sharia, making Islam the norm. Oh my God. Your own stories like betray everything you want to promote. Every excuse that you have, your own stories betray them. Most epic something is saying from a Quranic perspective, one is allowed to rape. The difference doesn't exist in the Quran. I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying, but I'm not exactly sure about how you're wording it. Ronald saying, how can they call religion based of morality? I don't know. Ask them. It seems impossible, but they somehow manage it. Andrew saying Safiyyah's marriage was forced. Yep. Well, that's why I don't call it marriage. They call it marriage. I call it rape. By the way, guys, the number of times I mentioned rape and cucks and balls and slavery and all of that means that YouTube is going to deprioritize. People are like, oh my God, you're going to be demonetized. These videos get demonetized. Saying this video is going to be demonetized is you guys assuming that some of our videos gets monetized. Like 2% of videos gets monetized. So I don't even care about monetization, right? This is why I appreciate your support on Patreon and being a member, because that's the only way we could continue what we're doing, because the ads, that's already gone. That's not what I care about. What I care about is it gets deprioritized. It gets so basically the way a channel grows is like when you get suggested in people's feeds or recommended videos, because of the things that I said, we don't get that advantage of any of that because of the things I'm saying, right? So the deprioritization of these videos is more of an issue for us than the demonetization, because that means this channel has a hard time growing. That is why you guys actually clicking the share button really helps, because that's the only way this channel will have any chance of growing. And again, guys, half of you are watching this, you're not subscribed. Like if you don't have to support us financially, just subscribing and liking, that really, really helps us with the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything other than half a second. Soraya is saying, if I promote this channel to anti-Muslim bigot Hindus in India, Armin will get 100 rupees per swear to Muhammad from those blind Hindus. Yeah, but how many of them will stay around once I start attacking Hinduism as well? I need to have. Well, Shobham is here for that, right? Shobham has a lot of. This is because Shobham. By the way, every weekend we have news on Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, and other religions as well. And Shobham, who I highlighted here, his YouTube name is Ronnie. He brings our Hindu related. He's our Hindu expert, ex-Hindu expert. He's a Dalit as well, so he knows about Shobham is saying, Sahih Bukhari 8479 says, I am not an expert like you, but I think this verse said that but I think this okay, well, I'll look into that later. Send it to me on Facebook. What else? So I was saying I'm right? Of course. I'm joking. Yeah, guys, subscribe now, okay? And guys, the reason why I do this live stream is sort of like pre-recording and editing. I do it live with you guys is because I make mistakes. I'm wrong about so many things, and I don't want to just tell you guys. I want to learn from you guys. This is like a engagement. It's not just a one-sided me preaching at you guys. I have changed my minds on things based on things that you guys pointed out to me in the live chat. And a lot of people don't do live streams as much as we're doing here because they're worried about like saying something that people could like then later clip out and be like, oh my God, you were wrong about this. you're so uneducated. Like, yeah, I'm wrong. It's fine. I make mistakes sometimes, and you guys, if I'm proven wrong, that's great. I learn from you guys, and then I go from there and I admit that I was wrong. There's nothing scary about being wrong, right? People think like, aha, I got you. I proved you wrong. I'm like, okay, congratulations. Well, thank you for teaching me something new. Right? This is why I want to make sure that I do this live with you guys, so you guys see that there is some learn. Like we learn from each other, and I want to normalize people changing their opinion as well, right? So I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong by some of you guys in something, so I could demonstrate how easy it is for you to change your opinion on something. So far, all right, so I'm gonna head out now. It's already been an hour. I'm gonna try to keep these around an hour or at least shorter. But again, guys, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for this channel is growing a little bit, and again, thanks to the Apostle Prophet for sharing some of our videos. I think that explains why we're growing a little bit faster these days. So thank you to him. And also thank you for the people that are not just watching these videos, but also subscribing and also following us on Twitch. Link in the description. But special thanks to the people that went beyond just subscribing and also hit the notification bell, right? And also to the people who are like Soraya. Like, let me just do. I'm just gonna do 3 more the people who are members. I'm just gonna highlight their comment and then I'm gonna go. Soraya saying, well, once you start attacking Hindus, you'll be trolled on Twitter in worst way possible. They literally have troll gangs funded by political parties and religious organizations. Well, give me some material. Like, guys, go join our Discord server and then under our Discord server, go to the channel called Video Recommendation and give me some Hindu crap to respond to as well. I don't want to be intimidated by anybody. Anytime people want to create an environment where you can't speak about something, I want to make sure that we go and, piss on their red lines. Literally as well, which I did. AJ saying, I'm here because I know almost nothing about Islam and I'm ignorant on a lot of things. It's still a shit religion, though. Yes. Don't worry, being ignorant, but we're all ignorant about many things. Dark is saying, I mean, it's a shit religion, AJ, but that comes with being a religion. Okay, so if you're a religion, you're shit. Dark is saying, not subscribed. The fuck are you doing with your... Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to go. AJ is saying, thank you, Armin. It's been educating. Well, no, thank you for supporting us. Anyways, only love the people who are subscribed and following us on Twitch. The rest of you could go fuck yourselves. I'm just kidding. But please subscribe. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Next live stream is coming soon. Check the YouTube home. Wow, we got a new member. Exodus 21 versus 20. New member. Thank you so much. Very generous. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Glad I stayed for just another minute to get a new member. But anyways, I'm gonna go check out our YouTube's homepage to see what's the upcoming live stream. I'm gonna add a couple more news right now as well. Anyways, bye guys. Hit the notification bell right now. Hit the notification. I'm looking at you. Do it now.